All right, we're golden.
So I'm gonna be yakking and blabbing here for a little bit. So just get comfortable, find a shady spot, and what's that? Pay attention, if you choose. That's optional. Attention is optional.
Earn attention.
Okay, I hope you don't mind. I have some other physical stuff that maybe if we get a chance we'll do that too, but I wanted to share with you something that's really got me excited lately, and I think it ties in a lot of what we're doing here. And it's a conceptual framework, so I'm going to get a little woo-woo, getting a little verbal, but I think it all toward a good cause. So I gave a talk last week at the Society for Consciousness Studies conference over at Yale and TGI, and talked about what I'm going to talk about right now, and went over really well, and so I wanted to run it by you. And like I say, it's a conceptual framework that validates a lot of what you've already experienced, what you already have in your lives, in your memories, and are capable of every moment. And just by shifting the language a little bit, it kind of opens, and that's our theme today, is opening. And for me, it opens us to the superconscious awareness. And when I explain what I'm talking about, you'll see how it's actually a whole lot more available to you than maybe you considered. So one of the biggest barriers that we run into is the way we talk about these things, which are kind of woo-woo, very insubstantial. And let me read a blurb from the Tao Te Ching. I really like this particular translation of it. It's from the ever popular Chapter 1, and
you haven't gotten all the way through, I guess.
I get stuck at Chapter 1. I have moved on past that first two lines, though. So,
Really?
So
Now the
there's some fun stuff down
woo-woo
down
at the
another
beginning.
paragraph, right? So
It's not the eternal woo.
the nameless was there before the sky and the earth were born. The named is the mother of the 10,000 things. In nothingness you will see its wonders. In things you will see its boundaries. These two come from the same origin, although they have different names. They emerged from somewhere deep and mysterious. This deep and mysterious place is the gateway to all wonders. So this was Eva Wong's translation. Okay, and any of you have read Finding You in a World of It, you'll recognize that some of my language kind of fits in with that. And the idea of, as the teacher says, meeting the mystery, that the named and the nameless are coming from the same place, and that we must respect both the named and the nameless. So there's a tendency in spiritual communities to kind of say, oh, we have to get past the naming and get into the nameless to get in, because that's where the real stuff is. No, we need both. We need both, and this is the essence of the lived life. So one of the big barriers I see is that consciousness as a term is sort of as one psychologist said, it's a word worn smooth by 1,000 tongues or 1,000,000 tongues. it's gotten so, you know, has so many different connotations that we don't really know what we're talking about. We do it. So I like to narrow down this and create a distinction between awareness and consciousness. So with awareness being, simplest definition I could find is responsiveness to the environment. And that applies at a plant level, at a unicellular level, at the level of spirit, whatever. It's like a responsiveness to environment. And consciousness is awareness of awareness. It's knowing that you know. It comes with the naming. It comes with that you are able to locate something and establish boundaries, the 10,000 things. You're able to establish boundaries to say, this is not that. Just by distinguishing awareness from consciousness, I'm saying this is not that. I'm saying that consciousness is a subset of awareness. So we develop as humans going from the pre-conscious stage, where we are not yet able to formulate ideas conceptually. We don't think representationally at all. We start off as single-celled creatures, and then we quickly expand from there, but it takes a certain level of development to get to the point where our nervous systems are able to language things. So that first year and a half, 2 years, we're in what's called a sensory motor stage. It's the pre-conscious stage of development. And then at that point we start to name things. We start to say doggy, cat, chair, whatever, and we start to identify objects. And then as we develop from there, we move into thinking conceptually a little bit. We think about things like happy, sad. We start to expand our awareness going into the next level of development. All that, now we're in the conscious stage of development. We've gone from pre-conscious to conscious. And that consciousness develops to the adult stage, where at its highest level we are able to think of very complex systems and systems of thought and systems of thought, and we're able to get all this stuff together and be able to think representationally, so that the words mean something, and we're able to use words and be able to communicate with each other. And as we do so, we move more and more into abstraction, including the body. So that pre-conscious awareness is translated into abstraction. Oh, my knee hurts. I feel tired. I had too much to drink last night and I feel lousy. Whatever it, Greg. We convert the feeling into a narrative quickly. So even while we're in the midst of an experience, we are narrating the experience to ourselves. There's so that conversion into a narrative takes us, that separates it out from the moment itself, from the feeling, and puts it into words and something we can understand and talk about. And you can see that too with, you know, all of us who are taking pictures and videoing things, and kind of, if we do that habitually, we're kind of recording events but never actually participating in them. So we get to that stage there, and as we develop consciously, we identify more and more with the abstractions, with our ability to think intelligently, to be able to talk intelligently, to the point where we're actually disconnecting from that pre-conscious. It just so happens that the pre-conscious body level sensory awareness is much vaster than our conscious minds can ever be. Our conscious minds their whole function is a reducing valve, where we take, someone postulated it's like 16 million bits of information per second coming in via our senses, and about 12 to 40 bits of information that the conscious mind can process. So it's about 1,000,000 to 1 reduction of what we're feeling to what we can think about. And to the extent that we're reading the headlines of what's coming up, and we are not actually in the moment, we are generally a quarter to half a second behind the moment and just catching the faintest glimpse of what went by. So oftentimes our language is that, oh, we have to get rid of the conscious mind, we have to get rid of our thinking mind so that we can to actually be there in the present moment. And what happens is that the conscious mind transcends and includes the feeling mind, but it kind of turns everything into abstraction. So, but if you can bring your conscious mind back to the feeling, something very interesting happens. We get a mind-body integration. It's something that we are all feeling, we've all felt today, we all do daily in our lives, and to honor that is to change your relationship to those moments. That is to realize that in that moment of mind-body integration, we move into a superconscious state. And by that I mean we move into non-representational awareness, non-objective awareness. And in that point we actually move into the present moment because we're not thinking via the conscious naming process. We've moved into that where the named and the nameless are both available. The superconscious transcends and includes both the conscious and the preconscious. So it's not an either-or thing, it's a both-and thing. So just to give you an idea of what I'm talking about here, if you get to grab your wrist with your hand, and then point your index finger and feel you want to feel that index finger. You can even give it a little wiggle and notice that something shifts immediately. Your awareness shifts. Now feel your wrist with your hand. And you may have to move either the wrist or the hand to actually feel, but you want to actually feel it using your hand. You want to get the sensations through that hand. And now feel the hand with your wrist. And just you want to actually feel using your wrist. Now feel your wrist with your hand. Now feel your hand with your wrist. So what did you notice, Andrew?
Isolation. I don't know.
That the feeling fills up your conscious awareness, creating a mind-body integration, and you immediately go into a superconscious state, into the present moment. There's just now. But you're also conscious, and you're also preconscious. You're able to access all three levels by integrating your body and mind. Like I say, this is something you're doing. It's something we've been doing today. When Steve was doing his exercise, you're feeling the earth, and by filling your mind with that feeling, and moving from the naming function. What's going on here? What am I trying to do? What, all the figure that goes on with that, and actually just feel, you shift into the superconscious awareness. And this is something, now just doing the same thing, just feel there, and shift back and forth between that awareness. Now feel your contact with the earth. Those of you sitting down, you feel it through your butt, through your feet. Feel that as well. Feel the wind on your face. Feel your body is aligned. Get all those feelings simultaneously. Notice that your awareness is much vaster than anything that your conscious mind can focus on. You open to energy and information that is not available to you in your normal conscious state, in your normal naming mind state. And this is what Steve was directing us to do with that. You by going into the meeting of the earth through our feet, and then just forget what you thought you should be doing in the next move, and just allow that to arise, because you're now accessing the full breadth of your gong fu, because in that superconscious state you are now able to do that. Notice that the superconscious state is continuous, and you may have like an idea like, oh, I'm a nervous person, or I'm an anxious person, or whatever, and that image of yourself, that name that you've given to yourself, is what you bring with you to the moment. And you don't even notice the fact that, oh, right now I'm not nervous, I'm not anxious. That's just a story I've been telling myself. Right now I'm just here in this present moment, and it is accessible to each one of us any moment of the day.
And that story that we've been telling about ourselves is also a story worn smooth by not 1,000 tongues, but one tongue 1,000 times.
Right, exactly. It's a trance
Very
oft
similar.
repeated.
Exactly.
So to the point, when we repeat that trance over and over and over again, then we buy into it.
Must be true.
It must be true. It has become so solid that we're building our house on that foundation. And at any moment you can erase that and say, oh, well, actually it's not true in this moment. Yes.
The really nice thing with the sensation, the feeling, is when you're saying, okay, feel the grass, or feel the contact of the wind, to then feel the leg through the grass, like feel your face, be the wind feeling the face, like that back and forth as you were doing
Yes.
with the wrist, you can
Yeah.
do with whatever you're coming into contact with, then that other that is making the contact to be
Massage,
there and
massage.
feeling the sensation of
That's
the skin.
beautiful.
It's
So, and that's a superconscious awareness. To be able to do that, you've transcended the limits, the boundaries that you have established by the names that you've given to yourself, and now it's like you're open to phenomena that are not available ordinarily. You were going to say something?
Well, I'm curious. Your words are so well chosen, and I admire your articulateness in this discussion. However, I'm curious why you're using super instead of whole consciousness. Super consciousness as opposed to whole consciousness.
Well, super means above.
I know.
So if we say that consciousness is awareness of awareness, so that is we are when we say using your conscious awareness, right? We say that as a way of saying, oh yeah, I know where I am. I know my name. I know who I am. Stuff like that. And that is consciousness means knowing about or knowing with. So it is of something. We're all consciousness or conscious is always a transitive verb. In other words, I am conscious of that tree. I am conscious of my feet. It is where I am directing my attention in this moment, in the vast multiplicity of
10,000
possible awarenesses that I have going on in this moment. I am directing it at my foot right now, and that I am conscious of my foot. I'm aware of a million other things in this moment, but I'm conscious of my foot. And so superconscious includes that awareness and everything else as well, including all those things that cannot be named.
Isn't that whole?
Wholeness is consciousness. Wholeness is where we move into a state of being where a unit is defined as a thing. An awareness of that individual monad the wholeness of Rick Barrett right now is distinguished from all the wholenesses that Rick Barrett is part of. Rick Barrett is part of this group. Rick Barrett is part of this scene here. Rick Barrett is part of this country. Rick Barrett is part of this universe. All those things, they're holons, right? They are the wholenesses within wholenesses within wholenesses. But once we define any wholeness, we say, oh, this is a thing independent and autonomous in of itself, and in relation to all these other wholenesses. But it is a conscious activity to define something as a thing itself. So your wholeness is absolutely vital for this whole process to occur. If we don't have your wholeness, then you're just part of the big cosmic bouillabaisse and without any distinguishing characteristics.
Which you are.
You're part of that. But you can all, depending on where you put your consciousness, where you direct your awareness, and know that you're aware of. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it's gave me a lot to think about.
Great. So, yes.
In Wednesday night class, it's kind of like we try to get coherence and go home in order to experience superconscious meeting.
Yes. To go beyond consciousness and into that which transcends and includes that.
Kind of like the gateway to the next.
Exactly. Exactly. It's the gateway to the meeting. You cannot meet with your whole being unless you are whole. And to be whole, you have to be a thing. You have to be an object yourself in order to be able to
Objectify.
in order also to go beyond objectification. To be able to meet in a non-objective way, you have to first be an object. You have to choose to be in this, be present in this moment. To actually occupy space and time as a thing itself, as an autonomous creature, in order to be able to reach over and touch Ethan, right? If I'm not an autonomous whole, there is no communication. There's no possibility of communication if I'm not whole, if I'm not myself. There is no love possible unless you are a wholeness. Yeah.
Can you repeat the definition of response to environment?
Awareness. Awareness as responsiveness to environment.
Responsiveness or response. Kind of thinking about Darcy and appreciating the articulateness. What I really liked about that is that stems from a fairly common way of describing life and using the term external stimulus.
Right.
But because of where we're going with this in terms of the superconscious and so forth, I really appreciated that you said response to environment, because it doesn't challenge where we're going as much as external and stimulus. When we start getting into the superconscious, those two terms would kind of get in the way. But thinking environment at our ground of definition really helps us get into those further
But
reaches.
even in the superconscious, we can be aware of those things which are not me.
Sure.
Right?
I
So-
totally agree. But if I started by saying external stimulus, which is a common scientific way to describe it, you know, that something responds to external stimulus and then propagates itself, right? That kind of thing. That can kind of arrest my getting a forest for the trees. So conscious of the trees, super conscious being the forest for the trees, maybe getting up higher, right? So we can see that. I can imagine that challenges me getting there because I'm already thinking external and stimulus.
Yeah. I do think of it external. I think it has to be in order to, it has to be not me in order for me to communicate with it, for me to become conscious of it. So I do think of it as external, but I appreciate the, you don't want to get too boxed in early on.
That's what I mean, and those two words are, I think, challenge you later.
Right.
Even though they're right, I think using them would challenge you later. That's my point.
You're right. And then
So I
we
like
get into
environment.
metaphysics at that point, and
Correct.
what story are you going to believe once you get into the nameless?
Right.
Once you start try to name the nameless, what story you're gonna follow at that point? but this opens the door for all the stories. This permits you to feel what's going on here. Yeah.
Sorry, I'm getting caught up in semantics now. So you
Okay.
just said
I love semantics. It's all about the semantics.
I love lots of antics, not just some.
you said in order to be aware of something,
Yes.
it has to be not a part of you, it's external.
Yes.
I'm aware of my knee,
Yes.
right? That means that in my wholeness right now, my knee is not included. That's why I can be aware of it as
Yes.
a separate thing.
Yes.
So awareness requires some degree of separation.
Yes.
Okay. And
Or
so
no. Consciousness requires some degree of separation.
consciousness requires some degree. Consciousness being awareness of awareness.
Awareness of awareness, right? So in order for the thing I do with the point your finger and now think about the finger.
Right.
Everybody's done that, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think everybody did. And that separation, being aware, thinking about the finger, conscious of the finger, creates that separation. But awareness is I can be aware of it as a wholeness, or I can be aware of it as something separate. So as one of the 10,000 things, it's now something separate from me.
So consciousness then, because it's conscious of something, it's in relationship to something.
Yes,
It is also by definition in a way separate from that
Yes.
something.
that's right. And that's why it's always a transitive verb.
Right.
Conscious,
Description of
I am conscious of a
Whatever.
thing, right? It's always, that's always that thing. So there's yeah, you were gonna say something?
I was. Back to this.
Yes.
So, I blew my mind, right? But it's because it's objectifying. You're objectifying yourself
Yes.
in a way you can't do normally.
Yes.
And you could say, okay, now I'm the hand feeling the wrist. Now I'm the wrist feeling the hand. And then you're like, wait, which one? I can't figure out which one I'm doing.
Right.
And breaks the whole thing apart.
The conscious
Now,
mind goes.
yeah, that's me doing. That's my making my body an object, and
Right.
yet once you do it both ways, it disappears. Let's say Ethan grabs my. So how to make this with a partner? Like he grabs my wrist
Yeah.
to do something, and it's no problem for me to feel the hand, my wrist feeling the hand.
Right.
But if I can start to feel the hand feeling the wrist when it's his hand feeling my wrist, I don't know. I thought that might be interesting. practice.
You can.
You
That's
totally
what Ritu
can.
was saying
Yeah,
with
you
have
totally
the breeze
can.
feel your
You
face.
can?
I do it like on the airplane all the time, sitting down all the time. It's just back and forth between whatever the
Is
object is and where I'm physically making. For me, it's more physical.
feel it feeling you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
this kind of,
But in terms of a martial art, I think there's something there.
Yeah. Well,
Sure.
it gets. Why don't you come up here? To actually
my watch off, my glasses off.
to demonstrate the effectiveness of this, we have. Let's say we have this.
Adversarial.
We
Sorry.
have. We have this. I grab your wrist, right? You feel my hand on your wrist.
Palunka and me will go.
Right. So you're just not pointing. You're just feeling that. As I grab the pressure, you are definitely there's an experience happening here.
Yeah.
There's an event happening that you're aware of as an experience, and it's separate. There's a separateness that
Now I'm
occurs
gonna
here.
feel that I'm the-
So then if you point and reach with your index finger and meet me, this disappears as an experience. It becomes there's still awareness of this, but as a conscious experience, it's no longer a story. The meeting is the only story. The meeting is the only event that's occurring at that point. So as in terms of martial arts application, being able to meet completely in the moment immediately transforms you from an experiential being into someone who is actually relating, or as Rita was doing, you're actually vibrating with the object that you're meeting. You're actually getting into resonance with that. So if you just feel the earth right now, feel some point of contact with the earth and go into resonance with that, and just notice what that does to your awareness. Notice how the mind clears. We move to the space between thoughts. This is what all meditation is trying to do. It's trying to clear your conscious mind, your conscious thinking, so that you can actually go immediately to that, so that there's this immediate connection, this sense of empowerment. And similarly, if I'm a martial artist and I want to gain an advantage in this, and I notice that the Rebbe is completely in that zone there, then I just do something to collapse the field, to induce a trance, induce a trance, so that that wholeness disappeared in that moment. So what was really important was these fingers touching your chest, right? And so the
I was saying, I'm not gonna let it do it. I'm not gonna let it do it.
not gonna happen this time. Oh man!
Fooled again.
Think about Ritu.
The gorilla took the banana again.
What you're teaching and what Ritu said before. Like I was thrown back to the transcendentalist poets, who are all they write about is like feelings of freedom.
Yeah,
That's called transcendentalists for nothing, right?
yeah, that's it. Yeah. So in terms of martial arts,
Like,
The conversation between the self and the soul.
yeah. Emerson.
Yeah.
all those guys.
so in terms of martial arts, for me, it is more a question of modulating your state of being than it is about any physical thing that you're doing. And in doing that, to do that, we need to actually integrate the physical part. So it's not separate from, it's an integration of, but the state of being that transcends and includes both the physical, the conscious, but entering into the superconscious then enables you to move to whatever level of interaction you need to do. Any,
I'm gonna take that 99-cent ad out of the belief.
So it's more about modulating your state of being than something physical.
yeah,
What it puts me in mind of is this idea that money doesn't make people happy, but they find that as long as they have a minimum amount of money, that actually does make them happy.
right.
But then after that minimum, it doesn't have any effect. So when you said more interested in modulating the state of being than anything physical, I hear what you're saying is, and I may be wrong, but I hear what you're saying is that assuming that there is some minimum physical stuff met, whether it's alignment, structure, presence, stance, and then mostly it's about modulating the state of being. In other words, if you...
Yes, but even more fundamental than that.
Mhm.
And that is, something that's strictly physical means that there's no consciousness attached to it.
Agreed.
It's pre-conscious,
Agreed.
right? So it's not how big are you, how strong are you, what, that's all pre-conscious stuff. Or even, how you react whenever you are so totally enraged that you're not thinking clearly. Stuff like that. Those are all pre-conscious activities there. So I'm saying it's less about that and more about modulating your state of being so that you can transcend and include, right? So it's not an either or again, not physical. It means we're bringing the physical and that, those millions of bits of information that we're gathering every second into the equation, and we are able to access them much more clearly. And it doesn't even stop at 16 million is just that's a low estimate in terms of how much information you're taking in at any moment. Particularly in the superconscious state, you're now open to, who knows how much. Yeah.
All right, sorry, backtracking a bit. Another semantics question.
I love semantics.
Oh,
And he loves all
he
answers.
loves all answers.
Get me some.
So if consciousness is a relationship
Yeah, that's
between awareness and the thing that you're aware of, right, and has that separation, then by definition that would seem like it means consciousness is emergent. It can only emerge when the relationship emerges. Is that
Consciousness is awareness, a knowing awareness of a thing. It's awareness of awareness
right?
of a thing. So is that
But that can only occur when a relationship between the awareness and the thing it's aware of
I would
comes
say,
into
yes.
being,
I would say.
and that phenomena arises and subsides and arises and
Yes,
subsides, and so
completely.
then consciousness therefore
Yes.
arises and subsides.
So there are
So it's
many moments during the day where I'm not conscious.
Right. So
Right?
Oh.
And you know, I mean, I spend most of my sleeping time in a not conscious state.
right.
You know, and you know, but there is still awareness of what's going on. And if I do, and there are some times when I'm sleeping, I am aware. Hey, Rick, you're dreaming. Oh man, you're having a construction dream again. It must be you've slept in too late. That's my sort of my snoozer. Like if I've slept in too late, then I have these. I'm on a construction job and everything is going south. You know, and it's like, oh fuck, how did I get here again? And like, oh, I say, oh Rick, yes. Remember, you left this as a marker to say that it's time to wake up. It's sort of like Inception, right? That movie, right? Going down to the different levels of the unconscious and leaving these wake up calls for yourself.
Just to connect the data chain back to what we're saying, and really just sort of point to another field of insight here without really, I don't want to take you off track too much. When we're talking about awareness is of the environment or the 10,000 things.
And the environment could be your dream environment.
Sure.
Awareness could be of the...
And consciousness is awareness of awareness.
Right.
Another way to look at that is that consciousness is awareness of awareness, which is to say it's awareness of a thing. And awareness is awareness of 10,000 things. And so when we go back to what is the mother of the 10,000 things, there's a one and then there's a many. And there's also like a way to look at consciousness, awareness, environment, and how they all stem together. Not just kind of hierarchically, but also in terms of one and many.
Like a flower, it's like
Yeah.
the stem and then the
Right.
I'm not quite sure I got that. Can you run that by me again?
Yeah. So we think of awareness, which is awareness directed towards the many, the all, the environment, the billions and 10,000 things. And then we think of consciousness, which is also awareness, but it's awareness of one thing, of the awareness. That's also sort of saying both things we're talking about are awarenesses. One is the water faucet on stream, and one is on spray. So there's the one and there's the many, which is also what we're seeing suggested in the Tao Te Ching at the beginning. There's a talking about the relationship and the ecstasy of the one and the many. Right. So in other words, the awareness, the consciousness are not all that different. They're just directed differently.
I would argue part of that, and that is, I think both the one and the many are conscious. Are both conscious conceptions.
They're conceptions, but you haven't described them as
but
conscious.
The awareness, there is no number. There's no one. There's no many. There's just now. Okay, and awareness. Whenever we, like that passage says, it's when we start to name things that we create boundaries where we can have such a concept as one and many. So
Right,
there's no many in awareness.
I need to make it a one thing, a whole. I need to bound it and name it in order to have my consciousness relate to it, right?
Or a one thing or a many thing.
But it may be a many thing, but it's a group. It's still a one.
But it's not. It's prior to that naming.
Right.
It's
just awareness.
As it said there, it's nothingness.
Or awareness of the unnamed.
Awareness is that non-named awareness is nothingness.
Right.
So there's no thing. You only create things consciously. Only by saying this is not that do we make a
Correct.
thing. So there's no one, there's no many in that other state.
Right.
There's just only in the conscious state do we have a one or a many.
Can you emphasize that again? I ask you this because I think it's one of the parts where people who are not familiar with the Tao, they tend to mistake this for a creation myth. Because they say, oh, well, first there's nothing and then something is...
Yeah.
So it's creation. So this is Genesis.
Or it's creation every time you apply your consciousness.
Right, and that's why.
It's
Which is
happening
what I was saying.
moment by moment by
Right,
moment.
correct.
Every time, it's like what you're saying, it's an emergent thing. It's like it happens, consciousness happens anytime you say this is not that. Anytime you say, oh, that's looks kind of like that. Anytime you name something, you say, so your consciousness arises in that moment. And that's where we go from nothingness into somethingness, in that moment. And that's when we have a concept like one or many or anything like that, is in consciousness. Beyond that, there's just now. There's just, what we lovingly refer to as Tao, just that which cannot be named, that which, at least not successfully. So
naming it takes you out of it.
Takes it out of it, makes you into it, makes it into a thing that you talk about and stuff like that, which is kind of cool and what we're doing right now. But in terms of application, the ability to shift between these two, to be able to go from somethingness to nothingness to somethingness to nothingness again and again and again and again and again, and do it knowingly and lovingly and confidently, allows us to regulate our internal state. So that, if you find yourself fearful or anxious or whatever, and you reconnect with the body, the feeling, you actually feel what's going on, you fill your conscious awareness with that, then suddenly you're a Buddha in that moment. And you get to go there anytime you want. And what therapeutically, this is like, it's an amazing, has an amazing effect on a lot of the people that I've been working with. It just like, it transforms, gets them out of a cage that their minds have been in for decades. Because the conscious mind is always seeking the answer in more data. And what we're saying is, no, we're moving outside of data. We're beyond data, beyond information, and into regulating, or not regulating, but being able to move easily between the named and the nameless, between now and thinking about now, or thinking about anything. So just notice in yourself right now just how that feels, how you feel right now, what that feels like, because for the most part we're all in a superconscious state right now, and we are talking about very complex things, so we are accessing highly complex ideas, complex information, but without having to leave the superconscious state. And there are different levels, and I say levels only in the sense of how insubstantial it gets, right? So it's like a ladder. The top of the ladder is no better than the middle of the ladder or the bottom of the ladder. It's all part of one ladder, and you use whatever part of it you need to access the environment, access the information that you're looking for. So being in this exalted high state of supreme oneness is no more valuable than being a drunk fan at a Steeler game. Like we're all part of that same thing. What game do I want to play is essentially where it comes down to.
Therapeutically, though, it doesn't change my anxieties or my fears or
It doesn't. So
Maybe
you find getting into a heightened state of coherence doesn't change that. So then
I'm probably not in a heightened state of coherence. But
I can't judge that. I can tell, I can guess, in a moment, I can test it, by whether or not your body and mind are. Like I said, we'll do it right now. Here, you just, if we get, if I push in here and you feel that, good, and relax your shoulder, good, and just reach it, good. In that moment, does that feel anxious or fearful to you?
yeah, I still feel that I've got my.
Okay, so you're still feeling that. Okay, so then it's a different thing. It may not be universally applicable. It's helpful to some people, and all that I'm talking about here is it useful to you? These words, are they useful to you? What I find useful about them is it ties in what you guys are already doing, and says, no, you're already there. You're already there. So relax. and just enjoy the ride, and just feel what you're feeling. You know, actually, and when I say feeling, I'm not talking about feelings. Whoa, 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 whoa. We're talking about feeling as in sensations, actually, sensory, motor, tactile, sensory information, and accessing that part, and allowing that to assume its appropriate place in your consciousness, in your awareness, and in your conscious mind too. So you say, oh, that you're able to shift. We good?
You have a little exercise to get us on our feet and feel it or taste it.
Yeah,
or
let's do
test
let's
it?
do that. We can
then
do
we can-
you know just what you were doing today. You know,
Yeah.
if you just stand up and
Kevin, did you
you
I do have a question.
okay, well, ask the question.
And it relates directly to what we're about to do anyway, so I guess
Good.
it's a good time. So, you know, questions about super consciousness. There's exercises you can do. I'm thinking of it as a state of mind. There's exercises like Steve ran us through this morning, where all of a sudden you didn't consciously say, I'm going to be in that state of mind, but poof, there we were.
Right.
Do you think we're shutting out millions of bits of information by turning that on? Is that how it's working?
That's its primary function.
Okay.
Its primary function is to act as a filter, a very narrow filter that allows you to discard millions of bits of information per second.
Okay.
So
I was
that,
wondering.
So if I were to ask you to describe everything that you have in your field of vision in this moment and do it right now, it'd be, it's an impossible task.
Got a minute?
Right? It's like, in Finding Joy, I said it's like listening to a symphony orchestra and trying to describe what every instrument's doing using Twitter. It's like, by the time you type in oboe, you're already four measures down the line, and you're completely out of sync with what's going on. And that's what our conscious minds are doing. They're out of sync with the present moment. So if you just take a moment here and you point and you feel with your index fingers, and just point and reach with your index finger, just get that feeling, and notice that immediately there is tingling, pulsing, there's sensations in your hands. And that immediately starts the process of taking you to a superconscious state. So now feel your right foot. Feel your weight in your right foot. Just allow all the weight to settle into your right foot and sink down into that. And just notice your internal state as you do that. And pick up your left heel and allow yourself to completely relax into that right foot. And notice how that takes over your awareness, your responsiveness now. But at the same time as you're doing that, as you're aware of this, notice also the sound of my voice. Notice the wind. Notice the sound of the birds. Notice that your senses are not shut down at all by bringing your awareness to that foot. In the superconscious state, you're not limited by that one thing. And then you just step forward, place your heel down, and just feel that contact there. And then slowly bring your awareness to your contact through your left foot. And just allow that meeting to occur. And feel what that feels like in your body mind. Notice that you may notice some perceptual changes, some visual changes as you do that. And then slowly allow yourself to sink into that left leg, so that you're emptying out the right leg as you do that. Without even picking up your heel yet, you're just kind of just emptying out and just allowing yourself to settle into that left leg. And slowly pick up your right heel. And what we do really well in the internal arts is we slow things way down so that we can fill our awareness, fill our conscious minds to the bursting with all this information, taking us into the superconscious. Then slowly pick up your right foot and bring it forward. Place the heel down. Make contact. Meet the earth through the right foot. And just settle into that and just feel both feet now. And feel into your hands now and notice the sensations in your hands. Many of you will feel your hands just bursting with chi at this point. And step back. Take a deep breath. And then just feel yourself dissolving all that energy, feeling kind of like you're dissolving it into the earth, disappearing, and allowing yourself to feel the emptiness now. And notice your mind, and notice if maybe the story is gone for the moment, that there's just an awareness of now. That you're not reporting back to yourself and saying, and Rick just said this, and what do you mean by that? And there's just now. And this is a superconscious awareness. It will not solve all your problems.
I paid good money.
It just allows you to access tools that you already own. You got this whole shelf of tools in your basement there that you never even look at, and here they are. And say, oh, well, that's what that's for. So it just allows you to go there.
Right now to the where am I, here I am, where are you, here
Right.
you are. I've been playing with that and they seem different to me.
Okay?
And where am I now seems like
Sorry, which seemed different?
the here I am versus what we just did.
Oh, okay.
Okay. The here I am seems like a lot of mental up here focus, a lot of work.
Yes.
Okay. And this doesn't seem like a lot of work.
Yes.
Are they the same? Are they different?
They're different.
Okay.
They're different. So, meeting, according to my formula, includes, first of all, coherence or wholeness. That is where you bring something to a state of wholeness. So, when you do this, that body-mind integration, that brings you into a state of wholeness. That's step one. Then we have 2 is mindfulness, an awareness of what game you're playing, what you're doing, what the context of the meeting, the context of the experience, the context of what's going on. And that's also a mental activity. So from that state of wholeness, you are now engaging in like, oh, I'm talking to Steve in Steve's backyard, and we're about 8 feet apart, and Steve is stroking his chin, and there's an awareness of all these things that are going on, and there's a tree up here and Andrew's over here. There's an awareness of context. That's all mindfulness. Mindfulness is awareness of thoughts, feelings, emotions, sensations, and the environment. Still an I-it activity. And then I say, oh, okay, from this state of mindfulness and this mindfulness, I'm going to occupy this space and time. Part of my mindfulness includes a recognition that Rick is standing right here, and I choose in this moment, at this moment in time, in this place. And from there I reach out and I meet you. So it's breaking something that's really incredibly simple and something you do every day, breaking it down into its component parts so that you can see where is it breaking down for me. If I'm not meeting, where is it breaking down for me? And you can see, is it the mindfulness? Is it the presence? Is it the ability to extend outward and reach and open to another person?
Which is the game you're chosen to play.
Exactly.
Maybe.
You can maybe or maybe not. You can choose.
Playing it if you didn't choose it.
It's a game I am choosing to play. Yes, in
Oh,
this
I-
moment,
okay.
I am
I
choosing
thought
to
you
play.
meant the
I'm
bigger-
choosing to play that game,
Right.
and at the same time, I can, since I'm in a superconscious state, I can meet not only you, but meet us all at this moment. So there is. Notice that as I do that, there's a change in at least my being. Whenever I expand my awareness to meet everybody here, as opposed to narrow it down and just meet Steve. Yeah.
I don't want to go too far off track, but there's a book I read called The Organized Mind. And it's about our attention, ability to hold attention,
Yeah.
with all the devices, and losing something about like organizing your mind in the age of the internet and all the devices. But he talks about, and he's a neuroscientist,
Yeah.
and he talks about that evolutionarily, these two states of consciousness are necessary. The one is the hunter, when you're out hunting, and your senses are going everywhere to find, and there's danger of being attacked by a bear. So you're casting this kind of daydreamy, non-conscious state to everything.
Unfocused.
But then when you see a deer and you have to shoot it, then you're in total focus consciousness. And we have both of these. And I was just thinking, in Tai Chi, this is a very good. I was going to use it sometime to teach. Like I even think William Chen saying, "Fall asleep, wake up." The one is just casting the big.
It's like incandescent to laser.
Something, yeah, like what you're talking about, but it has, our brains are this way for evolutionary reasons. That
Yeah.
it may even go early before that in terms of.
I haven't quite integrated that piece of information that you've got there, so I'm not quite sure
I'll send you the
the
book.
implications of all that. But we are definitely our brains are organized, in a certain way, and we're reaching at a point now where broadly anyone can move into a state which at one time was reserved for only the masters, only the sages, now it's like anybody who wants to can move into this heightened state of awareness.
I think that what Andrew was saying also relates to what I was saying, and also is maybe something for you, because using hierarchical terms, even though I understand the extensive meaning of the word supra, I want to use
Super.
I'm sorry, super. Wow. I want to usurp Michelle Obama and say, when you go high, I want to go low. So I don't want there to be something that's over the wholeness, which is in itself, isn't that qualitatively definitive? You're saying wholeness. I only, I think that the two things that you were talking about are one thing. That we're organized for both types of thinking, and it's not separate. They're just part of they're integrated parts of a whole. Do you understand where I'm coming from with that? I'll be very interested in thinking about this later to see if it's a higher. I'm resisting something about that super.
I don't think Rick is suggesting something's better than because it's higher.
That's
It's
why I
just
gave the
it's
example
just a
of the
different
ladder.
viewpoint.
I said
Yeah,
just
the
because.
ladder's a good example.
So the top rungs of the ladder are not better than the bottom rungs.
Yes, gravity's the same wherever you are. And
But also, what you're going to be using the ladder for
Yeah.
is what's important. If you've got something 10 feet up, it doesn't matter. You don't want to be 30 feet up on the ladder because you're painting the window at 10 feet. So it's not. I think the point I've been making many times is it's not a better than. Super doesn't mean better than. It just means higher than. It means higher. Higher doesn't mean better.
it
Higher
means
just means
what
that
then,
it
Rick? Does
transcends.
mean higher?
Transcends and includes the developmental structures below it. In other words, Ken Wilber talks about the pre-trans fallacy, and that is the idea that a baby is in a state of wholeness and an enlightened master is a state of wholeness, so they are one and the same. That the enlightened master is just like the baby, and that's the pre-trans fallacy. It's not. They're not the same. They're not the same. One has gone through all the stages of development to reach a state of wholeness. The other one has just begun the journey.
And you're sure those are different?
I'm sure you may not be, but
No, that's what I'm asking. If
I,
you're sure.
I know that a 6-month-old child is while in a personal state of wholeness is not able to do calculus, is not able to drive a car, is not able to do many of the things that someone who's gone through
Or know where
all
your
the
face
stages
is
of
after
development.
you cover it.
What's that?
They don't even know where your face went when you cover it. So it's
Right, exactly.
pretty simple. The
Exactly.
object permanence
You know,
thing hasn't
right.
kicked in.
So there is a difference.
Exactly.
There is a difference. One,
Exactly.
if you can incorporate a vast amount of information and still feel that state of wholeness, you're in a different place than someone who is completely unaware of that information. You're gonna say something?
So there's
Maria?
the acquisition of information?
No,
Acquisition of experience.
development of the ability to process information.
Yeah, I was going to say,
What were you gonna say?
taking an overview, right? We're working on our form, we're working on Qigong in order to establish our own wholeness and coherence. We do exercises to get more whole, to get more body-mind integration, right? If things come in the way, we either find ways to handle them, we do an exercise, we work on the claw or the shoulders or the arms, in order to get the body integrated and to get your mind and your body integrated into a sense of wholeness. Now once you, and you're whole one day, you're not whole the next. You wake up with a crick in your neck, okay, so that's something that makes you not quite coherent. So that's something, you just have to deal with when it comes up. But if you're working on wholeness and you're working on nourishing and circulating and expressing chi, right, that's the next step. So first we get grounded, we get coherent, right? That's our basis. And then we learn how to deal with energy coming and going. Our energy expressing out, other energy coming in. And then we start noticing, where is the energy coming from? It's coming from Andrew. There's an Andrew there, right? Oh my God, another person. That's where we get into the whole meeting thing. That there's another being that is a whole energetic system, and whether we want to play with this energetic system or meet the being or go out for coffee, it's up to us to choose what game we want to play there. But beyond that is when you get into the mystery, right? If I'm totally coherent and I meet Andrew and I acknowledge there is Andrew, this is me, this is Andrew, and I engage with Andrew, anything can happen, right? But if we both engage and meet and go into the state where we're not judging or thinking about or worrying about the pain in our lower back or whatever, we're just meeting being to being, and we're getting into that superconscious state, it's a whole other game. So it's a development, and each part of the development is very important, but you're not going to get instantly superconscious and be there whenever you want to without practicing it. Right?
I'm not sure.
So just wait.
Because I think beingness may just be.
Well, yeah, you could just be something. You could.
The bottom line is we're in these bodies. That's the issue. But, who was asking about Tai Chi alchemy? Somebody was asking on the stairs. There's a guy there who always says, "What do you expect?" We go around and say, "What do you expect from the weekend?" And there's a guy there who says, "I expect superpowers. I expect to come out like superpowers." And this is, I don't know if it's manipulative, but I was trying to, like, the idea of Rick is talking about you can kind of become a Jedi, any of us, right? And I've been experimenting with it a little bit. And so I've gone into a restaurant recently. It happened to me. I went into a restaurant, and there were 4 of us having dinner, and only 2 of us were there. And the woman up front with the other guy, they said, "Sorry, we can't seat you till all your party is here." And I thought, I'm going to try this, like the Star Wars thing. These are not the droids you're looking for. I said, I'm going to try this. I'm going to say, "You can seat us before all of our party is here." And she literally turned to the guy next to her and said, "We can seat them." And we got seated. And I've seen Steve do that kind of stuff a lot. So
And there you
Seems like you may have moved to the dark side.
Yeah, it is the dark side, but
Unless
I just,
it was a really good
I just thought,
restaurant,
I'm gonna
then
try
it's
this.
using your
I'm gonna
powers
try-
for
I'm
good.
gonna- I got in I definitely put myself in that state, and I just, and very empathetically and warmly.
Yeah.
And it was literally
born
like the
of a
Star
true
Wars movie.
connection.
It was literally like,
Yeah.
these are not the droids. They're, you know, like,
Yep.
literally. Now the moment it's like concentrate thinking about the finger that's pointing. The moment I think I'm going to do this, boom, it won't work.
Of
It's
course.
kind of,
Manipulation is a necessary establishment of otherness.
I
But
guess.
to connect and be like, you can actually see this. It's just like,
It wasn't reasoning. It wasn't
No, no,
reasoning.
no, I
I wasn't
know.
reasoning with them. I
You're
wasn't
Because
like,
reasoning
inviting
is
them to
concept.
see the reality in a
you
different
know
way.
what? I put them into the supernatural. I put them
Yeah.
into the same
Right.
state.
exactly.
And then they tapped in, and it was just like when Obi-Wan Kenobi said that. I'll
Yeah,
tell you, it was
yeah,
exactly the same.
Okay,
Exactly.
one more question and we're gonna
Just
wrap it
a
up.
quick one. Rick, so a couple times
Great
today
story,
during
Kevin. Good night,
exercises,
everybody.
We've been in a trance state, briefly. Is that super consciousness? No. Then we got to talk later.
Quickly, trance is information coming one way. So if the information is coming one way, then your conscious mind freezes on that. It gets stuck on that information, and you're unable to shift gears.
Would you call a trance kind of a strategically disabled awareness?
Yes. It's where you have established a certain idea as being true and stable, and you are going with that, and despite all evidence to the contrary.
We want to go from trans-rational to trans-rational.
Right.
Nice shift.
Okay, thank you very much. It's great. So thank you.
Okay, so we'll just take a break for a couple minutes to hydrate or bug spray or have a bite of chocolate or something, and then we'll come back and put Ethan on the spot.
In the future, we'll put Ethan on the
In
spot.
the future. I'm having a lot of difficulty hitting stop. No, look at the time.
Oh. Oh no.
I know,
Just 40
have
seconds
to
of
just
limbo.
hold on, Rick, for 40 seconds. It's at 107.25. Can't stop. Can't do it. No pressure, Rick.
Just give you the signal to vamp.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That was wonderful. I really appreciated your questions and your feedback and input and stuff. That was good.
How much?
Yeah.
I don't remember.
And
what this
so,
was set up
in
to run
regard
to.
to that feeling,
Yeah.
it's
Kind of tiny.
I'll
it's a different thing.